Hi everyone, and welcome to Big Ideas Growing Minds. We're so happy that you're here. Please consider subscribing to the channel, as your support means the world to us. Today's big idea comes from Dr. Jennifer Eberhardt and her intriguing book, Biased. The book has the subtitle Uncovering the Hidden Prejudice That Shape Our Lives, and is, in its essence, an investigation of the concept of unconscious biases and reflection on how they influence every part of the world we live in. The book has a particular focus on race, mainly on the biases targeted at Black Americans, but also holds insightful reflections on the way biases impact lives worldwide in the personal sphere, the political arena, and in social interactions. When you hear the word bias, you may think of conscious prejudice, but the fact is that most potent biases are actually unconscious, an unknown result of the culture, society, and family you grew up in. And the bad news is that unconscious biases not only shape our views of the world, but can also make us judge people unfairly, act inappropriately, and jump to unjust conclusions. In Biased, Dr. Eberhardt sheds much-needed light on the phenomenon of unconscious bias and how it can lead to racism, discrimination, and injustice. See, a pivotal point in the book is that whether you want to admit it to yourself or not, you are irrefutably, at least to some extent, biased towards people who are, or look, different from you. According to science, all humans have innate preference for people who look like themselves and an immediate suspicion against those who are different. Eberhardt calls this the other race effect, and explains that it happens since we humans, as a species, rely on categorization to manage information more efficiently. It's a fundamental tool that our brains are wired to use, and a process that applies to people and everything that crosses our paths. Just as we place people into categories, we classify other animals, food, and things. We fill every category with information and opinions and instill feelings that guide our current and future actions. For many purposes, this is quite helpful, since it lets us process information quicker. The downside is that it makes us see people of other races, genders, or preferences as one homogeneous group, instead of seeing them as individuals. Hence, we use our stereotypical responses and reactions instead of treating each situation separately. This means that even when we genuinely wish to treat all people equally and fairly, our ingrained stereotypes can infect our visual perception, attention, memory, and behavior. Imagine how this shapes our view of the world and our fellow humans, and how impactful this can be in high-stakes situations like police encounters. For example, Eberhardt explains how categorization often leads to misidentification and misjudgment of criminals if they're very different from their victims. Addressing bias is therefore not just important, it's a moral stand and an absolute must for every decent human being. In Biased, Eberhardt has a strong focus on Black Americans, but the fact is that every society has disadvantaged groups that are the target of bias, and if not addressed, these biases will continue to reproduce and spread. Eberhardt reminds us that we all have the capacity to make change within ourselves, in the world, and our relationships, and highlights how each and every one of us must make an effort to understand and change our biases. And with that, this was our Bouillon Cube summary of Biased by Jennifer Eberhardt. As always, we can only recommend reading the entire book, and if you're interested in learning more about biases and stereotypes, maybe we suggest you check out our summaries of Nudge by Cass Sunstein and Richard Thaler, or Whistling Vivaldi by Claude M. Steele. We hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please remember to give it a like, take care, and see you soon.